I love when coaches, consultants, and professional service providers want to do big things in their business. They want to rise to the top and influence their market and the world around them. They want to have a greater impact and make a more lucrative income. Well, if this is you, welcome to Expert in You Podcast, the show where I interview other experts and coaches, consultants, so that they can share their success strategies with you. We're going to talk about marketing and how to close more sales, how to get more premium clients, and how to really build your visibility in the market and scale your business like a boss. If this is you, welcome to the show. I want to ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell right now so you don't miss one episode. Grab your coffee and buckle up because we are ready to give it all to you to help you become the expert and get paid as the expert that you are. Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you back to another episode of Expert in You Podcast. I'm your host, Carden, and you are going to love the guest I have this week. He is amazing, and I'm super excited to have him on. I have Robert Teschner on, and with code name or call sign, Cujo. Robert is a former F-22 fighter pilot, and he has built an incredible coaching and consulting business around his expertise, working with high-performing teams, training them, training leaders. And I can't wait for you to get to know Robert and hear from him. So thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you, Ann. Thanks for inviting me to come join you. I admire your work, and it's an honor to be here on your podcast.
Well, I am super excited. I know you're going to bring a lot of value to my audience, and you're just doing some amazing things, not just from the way that you're impacting organizations out there, but I also am going to talk about the business that you're creating, because you're also creating a real business. You don't just have an income. In fact, he's coming to us today. He's from the St. Louis area. But he's coming to us from Minneapolis today because he is on a speaking engagement. We were just having a conversation around that. So he's all over the place. He still flies, but I think it's going to be so fun for you to hear everything that he's doing. So let's jump in. I know you have a program called Top Gun Teamwork. Who does not love that? So yeah, tell us about that and how you got into this. I know your background, but how did you really get into like the coaching space and training?
Yeah, great question. And it all started back in 2004 when I was a young instructor in training at the Air Force Fighter Weapons School. So the program that we know as the Navy's Top Gun program, the Air Force had about 20 years before the Navy. Just a side note. And I was privileged to get a chance to go through it as a student in 2002, and then to come back as an instructor in 2004. So that's what this patch is here on my shirt. It's a graduate of that particular institution. And when I came back to instruct, I was sort of mandated that I was going to teach a couple of core courses to the entire schoolhouse. So at the time I was flying F-15s. I was an expert in the employment of the F-15, but when I came back to the schoolhouse, I was going to teach all of our students, A-10s, tanker transport, helicopters, F-16s, intel, space, all the different disciplines, how to practice team accountability. And when I was given that assignment, I was not excited about it at all. Of all the boring things that you could teach, accountability was probably topic number one. But that's what I was told that I needed to do. And, I saluted smartly and took on this burden. So I start working on this course. And at the time, I'm dating the beautiful Miss Diane. And she was sharing with me some challenges that she was experiencing. She was on the management team of a company, and they were going through some transitions. And as I'm working on this accountability thing, and she's talking about some of the challenges that she's experiencing on this team, it struck me that maybe what it was that I was about to start teaching to the Air Force could cross-apply into business. And that's where the idea was hatched as a young captain, that maybe there's principles here that we're using in the high-performance team world that we could, translate and teach someplace else. Now, we fast forward a decade later, 2014, I'm a lieutenant colonel. I'm on the staff at Headquarters U.S. European Command. I'm getting ready to come back to the F-22 now. As a senior Air Force leader, we're thinking I may be promoted to colonel, with that, the opportunity to command at high level. But that's when I was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. And that colorectal cancer diagnosis, which was a complete out of the blue sky, you've got to be kidding me. Turns out the tumor was growing for a decade. It started back when I was building that accountability course. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know.
Oh, but, wow.
Yeah. And now my wife, Diane, is 6 months pregnant with our fourth child. We're overseas. We don't know how bad the cancer is. We don't know in that initial diagnosis if it's days, weeks, or months left to live. And so that causes us to think, what are we going to do with our lives? And after a couple of really horrific GI surgeries, I found that I was non-functional. My body did not operate well, and I turned my plumbing back on after having removed my lower colon. I was trapped in a bathroom. And couldn't depend on my system, and certainly couldn't fly any longer.
Oh gosh.
It was a bad experience. And for a guy that used to think that I existed to be a fighter pilot, for that to be taken away overnight, one day to the next, that was a difficult transition. And then to the question of what do you do when you're not able to fly? What do you do when you're trapped in a bathroom all the time? We made the decision to retire early. And it was in that phase, the 2015, 2016 timeframe, where I started to think about the conversation that I had with Diana, a million years ago at that point, and said, maybe that part of me is still functional. Maybe the things that I was privileged to learn from a leadership and teamwork standpoint are still here. And if they are, and if I can find some way to translate that effectively, maybe we can go teach that. And thus it was that the idea was hatched to give it a shot.
Oh my gosh, I love that, because one of the things I help people, coaches and consultants do, or people do, is take their expertise, their knowledge, their skills, package that up and build a business around that. So that really resonates, that you saw that opportunity and you were able to do that. And even through all of the adversity and the challenges and everything, I don't think God doesn't waste anything, does he? It doesn't matter how horrible it is, what the situation is, he does not let anything go to waste. So here you are impacting people again and traveling all over. So I think this is just so powerful for people to understand and for people to hear. But now you are teaching accountability still, even though it wasn't your favorite thing. What shifted there, do you think?
Yeah. So a couple of things shifted there. One, I became really well-versed in the practice of team accountability. Being forced to teach, whatever it is that you're forced to teach, causes you to hopefully learn how to do it really well. And so I learned a lot by building the systems back when I was on active duty. And then the other piece that changed was that I saw its effectiveness. I really started to think about and then pay attention to how effective this was. And then you add that to the fact that when I took the step out of the Air Force and I spent a little bit of time trying to figure out, how do I go about doing this? I ended up, from a journey standpoint, in a couple of small businesses. And as I watched these small businesses operate, I realized that the common link between the two, the piece that needed to be built out more was a sense of how do we practice meaningful, forward-focused accountability? It's the epicenter. It's the central piece that determines whether or not a team truly is one. In its absence, if we have an uneven distribution of accountability, if I hold you, Anne, to a different standard than I do Pete or Mike, well, then everybody sees that.
Right.
Down in trust. If there's a breakdown in trust, there's no commitment. If there's no commitment, there's no performance. And so the whole reason why we organized a team is flushed away. And so what really changed was recognizing that in the high performance team world, I think we took for granted, especially in the fighter pilot business, that we knew how to do this. And we kind of kept that skill set to ourselves. When I saw that it wasn't maybe quite as well known outside the fighter pilot world, that was the final piece that said, we've got something. This thing's still got some schlitz left into it. Let's bring that out and do something with it. And I did a test case in St. Louis. It was the worst example of me teaching my content ever, and yet the principal
must have worked.
I mean, it was an F-, but it was still effective.
Yes.
And I learned from that was that if we can package this differently, deploy it in a way that's more meaningful to folks that haven't experienced this before, we're on something. We've been on something ever since.
And I love your language. You haven't changed your language. We're going to deploy this. So it's awesome. I love, so of course, when I came across you for the first time, I went and checked you out and looked at everything you were doing. And one of the things that really impressed me, Robert, is the brand that you have built. I think Top Gun teamwork is so awesome. And I think that it's such an incredible brand with your background. And I know it has to be really compelling. I know your brand is getting you clients and business because it is so different and you have all of the stuff to back it up. So I know that's really helped your business take off, and you've been able to do a lot of things with your business. You are licensing a program now. Is that correct? Or getting ready to do that?
Right.
You're building people under you. And so you've built this entire wonderful business model around everything, but I absolutely just love it. And I love that brand. You worked with a marketing agency though, that helped you with that, didn't you? Yeah.
I did. Not my idea. In fact, I would never have organically picked that name. I'm an Air Force guy. That, Top Gun is unfortunately associated with the Navy. No offense to my Navy friends. Even though in an Air Force fighter squadron, we have a Top Gun program. Every fighter squadron has a Top Gun program.
Right.
But
it works.
It works. And, kudos to the market. I mean, that's why you have experts in their fields. And our marketing team said, this is the way to go. And so I said, let's do it.
So where did Cujo come from?
Yeah. Specifically in the Air Force fighter pilot community, we adopted a ritual post-Vietnam prior to Desert Storm of naming new members of our tribe. Mm-hmm. And, it's a formal ceremony that takes place about 6 months into your first operational assignment.
Oh.
Yeah. So you've had some time to be there. Until that point, you have a temporary call sign. It's usually a really derogatory thing. And then at the formal ceremony, stories are told about you. And the threshold for truth is the stories have to be at least 10% true. And
love it.
And at the end of the evening, a vote is taken, and they give you the opportunity to weigh in. They're like, hey, we're down to these two choices. What do you think? And if you play your cards right, you don't have a vote. Like if you play your cards right, you just say, hey, whatever you all come up with is fine by me. And that evening they settled, my tribe did, on Cujo. I can't tell the stories that were told at my naming though. That's part of the contract.
Oh, okay.
So I've never actually shared.
There's secrets behind it.
That's right. But I will also tell you that for a guy that wanted to be a fighter pilot since I was 4 years old.
Really?
Since I was, when I saw Star Wars in 1977, I said I needed to go to the academy because that's where Luke Skywalker wanted to go. And I wanted to do the equivalent, in our world of flying an X-Wing. And I decided I want to be a fighter pilot. One of the coolest things that ever happened to me was to be named by my tribe. And until the day that I die, I prefer to be known as Cujo, actually.
So I'm not going to call you Robert from here on out. I'm going to call you Cujo.
I'd love it, Ann. Thank you.
You are welcome. I love this. This is so fun. All right. So you're building this incredible company. Let's talk about some of the work that you're actually doing with your clients, helping to drive performance with teams. Who are your best clients? Who do you like to work with? Who are those people for you?
Yeah, I've been surprised by what industries it is that seems to care about learning how to team better. And it's basically everybody. We've got folks in the IT space. We've got folks that build software. We've got folks that build houses. We've got folks that are general contractors. We've got financial services. It doesn't matter. If you team, and if you're interested in building a stronger human team, why wouldn't you reach out to folks that have teamed in some of the most difficult domains that we have on this earth, and that is teaming in the midst of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, the VUCA world of combat operations, which is, there's no more human undertaking or enterprise than to team that way. And sometimes there's trepidation, what can we learn from the military? We're a business outfit, is one of the self-limiting beliefs that some people have.
Really? I'm so surprised by that. I would think the credibility and trustworthiness would be off the charts.
This morning, I actually, and from time to time, I just ask random questions. This morning, one of the questions that I asked a group of CEOs is, what liabilities do I bring as a former member of the armed forces, talking leadership and teamwork to a bunch of business leaders? And there's always some trepidation. Like, folks don't immediately go, you got this problem and that, but eventually, we get it. And so the very first comment was, in the military, you bark orders, people have to follow the orders, otherwise they're going to be punished. In the military, there's no innovation. In the military, it's strict command and control. And so there's all these kinds of things. And what we find as we go through our workshop is that in the military, we've created a system where we've empowered our youngest employees to make decisions at their level. In the military, we've given folks the credit for it and give them trust to make the right decision at their level. We practice accountability, not from the standpoint of how are we going to punish somebody for not achieving results, but rather, how are we going to actively embrace the fact that they did their jobs correctly and helped us to win. That's the first piece of accountability that I would emphasize to folks. And then when it comes to us dissecting a failure, the ambition isn't to punish or blame, but rather to learn and to bounce back, to spark resilience en route to helping make tomorrow better than today. And it's a
I
very
love it.
And so we finished up our session today with a group of people that realized that they may have had some misconceptions about how the high performance team world is to win.
Yes, because you are only as strong as your team. And if you don't have a superstar team, then you're out there on a wing and a prayer, so to speak, which doesn't build a strong culture. So I really like too also how you took the really positive pieces from what you learned in the military, and that is what you're applying. So like when you first started talking about the strictness and you follow this and you're told what to do, I could see where people would be a bit taken back, like, okay, that doesn't really work in business, right? But I love how you kind of reframe things and then you looked at all the positive things that come out of that. And you're right. If people in the military, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if they can't think for themselves, you're going to be in trouble with whatever it is you're doing. You have to give people that leeway.
100%. And there's an organizational construct that comes to us from ancient Prussia called Auftragstaktik. It's poorly translated into the English language as mission style orders or mission command. And the beauty of mission command is at a time when all militaries were very rigid and disciplined and bureaucratic and hierarchical, when the C-suite called all the shots, if you will, the headquarters had to make all the decisions. And so somebody on the front line had to run, the question up to headquarters and then run the answer back down. The Prussians said, we need to become more agile. This centuries before agile became a buzzword in business.
Right. It's a thing now, for sure.
Right. We're striving for agility. German General Helmut von Moltke was striving for agility back in the mid-1800s. And the concept of Auftragstaktik is pretty cool. It says we need centralized command, but decentralized execution. It says the people that need to be empowered to make decisions are the folks at the lowest levels of the organization because they're the ones that see the battle unfold before their eyes.
Oh, gosh. So good.
I just think back to my experience as a young fighter pilot. What I loved about flying F-15s, the world's greatest air superiority fighter, by the way, hand assembled by McDonnell Douglas Aircraft Corporation in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yes.
I would say 104-0 in combat, by the way. I love the fact that I was empowered to make decisions in my cockpit about how to use my airplane, about whether or not to go master arm switch hot and fire a missile at a dot that I assessed to be in violation of the rules of engagement. That is something very unique, very special to a high performance team, and it's something that I don't see actually that often in the business world. Too often, the decision-making authority is kept at the highest levels because of fear.
Right.
The team's not. The absence of trust that somebody's going to be able to make the right decision. We've trained young kids to make hugely impactful decisions about life.
Right.
I mean, I was 25 years old the first time that I flew a combat equipped airplane in hostile skies, and I was trusted to make the right decision. My theory is that if I could be trained to make this thing happen, we can do that across the board. And the thing that sets us up for success, it isn't just the training. It's the fact that we know that we're going to be held accountable for the decisions that we make.
Right.
Knowing that we're going to be held accountable for the decisions that we make, it actually pushes us to make the right decision.
So good. Oh my gosh, this is so good. And the other thing I love, that the reason I love you're talking about this too, is so often there is such a disconnect from the people at the top to the people that are at the bottom. Like you said, on the front line, so to speak, the people that are in, I like to say, in the weeds, or, in the thick of it. And there's just this disconnect, and that just causes such tension and such discord in any organization, even in any business. It doesn't make any difference. So there has to be this trust, and that you have to build that into your culture, and everyone thrives and succeeds in that way. So good. All right, let's talk about America's best teams to know how to make tomorrow. Did I get that right? America's best teams know how to make tomorrow. That's what it is. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So there's one piece that's missing from that phrase, and that is how to make tomorrow better than today.
Okay.
Right. So right now we live in a world of so much fear, fear on a number of different levels, all usually tied to the fact that the news is getting worse daily. And we're being told that it's somebody else's fault daily. Mm-hmm. And the burden that's placed on leaders right now is, I think, a harsher, more difficult burden than we've ever experienced in our lifetimes of business. And that is to inspire our teammates with hope, despite how negative everything is. The CEO of Gallup just wrote a book about the global rise of unhappiness and how stunningly unhappy people are, how unfulfilled they are right now because of all of the uncertainties of the moment. So how do you push back against that? And how do you inspire hope in a better tomorrow when everything seems to be so dark and gloomy? This is where I would say, just because I've lived it, and now with some distance from it, because it's been a while since I've lived it. The last time I flew an F-22 was unfortunately back in 2012, which by my simple math puts it at a decade. Doesn't seem possible.
We're not going to talk about the age thing.
Right. I'm just going to let that thing go.
That's all your experience that we're looking at there.
That's right. And what we find is that high performance military teams have learned how to thrive in the midst of nonstop chaos and disruption, nonstop volatility, uncertainty, and have extreme optimism that even if we lose today, we're going to come back and we're going to win tomorrow. And there's a mindset. And this is a really important thing. There's a mindset piece to this that says, when everything falls apart, when the world around us is going to hell in a handbasket, we're going to find a way to win, because the story that we're going to be able to tell is so much more compelling.
Oh, yes, it's going to be so good.
and actually, yes. If you take a snapshot back at 2014, when we got that cancer diagnosis, and on the very first day when the doctor said, "Hey, I found this tumor and it's a really bad one," we were still 5 days away from the biopsy results. In those early days, we didn't know if it was days, weeks, or months left to live. Like, it was just such a gruesome outlook. It was bad. The first thing that my wife and I did on the heels of that, because she was pregnant and hungry all the time, I had just done my colonoscopy prep, so I was starving. Funny thing is, we went to lunch, and it was at lunch, on the heels of the diagnosis, that I said to her, "Our story just got better," and she agreed, which is a demonstration of a mindset. We can't control the outcome here.
Right.
We're going to do everything we can to make our story just got better our reality. And I will tell you this, the surgeries were horrific. The recovery from the surgeries in both cases was horrible, lasted months. Even years. The disruption to the system was horrific, and yet I don't think my wife and I ever laughed as much as we did during those days. I don't think we bonded as closely as we did during those days. And now, 8+ years later, I'm here to testify to the fact that the story did get better. Like I'm not doing what I used to love to do. And yet I think what I used to love to do set me up to do the thing that I'm meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, then yeah, this is a double thumbs up. So mindset wise, our story just got better. Something that I learned from the high performance team world, it fit. And then you look at process, and the process that we use in the high performance team world, the thing that I learned how to teach at the weapons school and then refined in learning how to teach in business. How do you use accountability to help you to have a better tomorrow? That's a big difference maker. So you combine a process that says tomorrow is going to be better than today, always, with a mindset that says when things go to heck, the story just got better. And that's a winning combination. And who lives that way?
Right.
We've got a world of victims. I mean, everybody's blaming somebody else for why it is the job didn't get done. And it's not my fault. And I've got an excuse, a justification, a counter accusation.
Yes.
High performance team world, it's totally different. It's a totally different game.
Yes.
And between the two, I'll pick the high performance team world.
Oh, I absolutely love that we're talking about this, because if I think back, all of my great stories come from the most challenging, the hardest times. I say the blood, sweat, and tears that I wouldn't wish on anyone, but it also is why I am able to make the impact today. It's why you are able to make the impact today. Those stories matter. Those times of challenge matter, and they become opportunities. And I absolutely love that you're saying it really is a mindset. Is it fun going through any of that stuff? I certainly have not gone through what you have gone through. So I don't want to make it sound like I have, but we've all been through challenges that we've been able to turn that into something really special and impactful for other people. And I always think, you are a great speaker. I can tell you're a great speaker, but you've got the stories to back all of this up, which makes it so interesting. And I do feel like that's what people really resonate with. And you've been able to really do something with that. So people need to realize that nothing has to go to waste. And it is truly a mindset. There's a solution to everything, or there's an outcome, a different outcome that you can have in every situation and in everything. And it is looking for that. And it's really having the mindset to see that. You were able to create this amazing opportunity out of all of that. And, there's just so much to be said for that. So good, so powerful. Wow. I love what you're doing. And yeah. And and the other thing too, so I want to just talk a little bit about the business side and what you do offer, because you offer a lot of different services and programs and things like that. And again, creating all of that out of what that expertise was and turning that into really an opportunity for a business. So talk about the different things you offer.
Well, so let's start with, what is our purpose? And I spent a lot of time when I was in the early phases of the recovery phase trying to figure out, why am I here? Like, besides, taking care of my family, why am I here professionally? What can I bring to the world with a broken body? And I arrived at this conclusion. I exist to teach and inspire real teamwork so that teams out there, specifically in business, thrive in disruption to keep our economy strong. And the reason why that matters to me is that I can't be on the front lines of our defense any longer. I cannot be out there flying F-15s, F-22s. The surgeon said I'd rip apart from the inside at 9 times the force of gravity. That does not sound very good to me. And so here we are.
Right.
But I can have an impact on our ability to provide training and equipment for the folks that are out there defending us right now. And I do that through the businesses that we teach. Mm-hmm. So that's why we exist. And when I say we, it's not just me. We've got right now 3 former fighter pilots that have joined me. We've got a former Army guy that's coming out to see what it is that we do. And we've got a bunch of people in the bullpen. Right now, we've got one of our instructors who's leaving Miami this afternoon to go to Cedar Rapids while I'm in Minneapolis. I just came back out of LA. Got another one that's in California getting ready to go on the road. We've got another one who's in the bullpen waiting to be called on to go out there and to deliver keynotes and to spread the message of positive, forward-focused accountability, resilience, mindset, and whatnot. Workshops, teaching teams how to do the things that we do in the high-performance world to their distinct advantage. Certification program to scale the message. So it's not just dependent upon us being boots on the ground in different places, but now more people across the globe get access to it and to be part of a community. One of the things that I loved about the previous life, real sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Las Vegas for the weekend with my bride. Was on the road all week, got home for a quick touch and go so that I could unpack and then pack to go to Las Vegas to join a bunch of my ex-teammates, people that I was in a fighter squadron with from 2002 to 2004. Why did we get together? Because we miss each other. There was not an anniversary of anything. There was no significant event. It was just because it had been a while since we had such a close bond back in those days. Everybody showed up. And then I went back on the road as soon as I got back to go do the thing. Painful and yet so important. Great sense of community. We're trying to build that community of practitioners, people who are bringing high performance teamwork into their domains. And that is probably the most exciting thing that we're working on right now. And we've got so many cool things to include a fighter weapons school program for business that we're
very cool.
In 2 years. That's right. It's going to be fantastic. So there's a lot coming down the pike.
Well, I am already so impressed with everything that you have created and what you have been able to do. And I can't wait to watch your success. And I can say, I knew you win. I'm so honored. I knew you win.
That's awesome.
This is so great. Cujo, thank you so much for being on here. How can people get a hold of you? But you know what? Before we do that, I have one more question, and I would love to know how you balance all of this, because you literally do fly from place to place to place speaking. I'm sure that's how you're getting your business and picking up clients. And I know you have a wife and I know you have kids. How many kids do you have? 4?
5.
I was thinking 4 or 5. I knew it was quite a few. How do you keep it all together? And how do you keep that balance so that your family's still a priority, your health is still a priority? How do you do that? I think that would be important for people to know.
Oh my gosh, that's the big question. That's the thing that we wrestle with every week. I'm taking a hit on the health front. Let's just acknowledge that right up front. I am not living my healthiest life right now. It's impossible. My nutritionist is doing the best he can to help me out. All kinds of different doctors that we have on the team who are trying to help me out, but the pace is grueling and this is not that great. So let's just take that off the table. We'll work on that here as we grow the business into next year, and I take myself off the road a bit. It comes down to this. All of my family shares the same purpose. My kids, several of them really deeply lived the cancer journey. They knew that Dad was no longer the fighter pilot that he used to be and that he missed being his old self. My wife is my best wingman that I've ever had. It's because of her support and her commitment to taking care of the kids Monday through Friday that I can be on the road to live our purpose, but it's a combined one. And when I come back after a trip, one of the things I do is debrief the family and let them know what it was that we achieved, the impact that we made this week. And the kids resonate with that. In fact, I've had a couple of them that have asked me, Dad, when I grow up, can I be in VMAX?
I was just going to say, look at what you are inspiring in them. They're going to want to do this. They'll be on your team, Team Cujo. They will be on it. That would be a brilliant thing, because it means that not only are they bought into what it is that we're doing, but they've also got something to contribute, and the contributions that they make are tremendous. And I have a tremendous sense of fulfillment in what it is that I do, but so does everybody on the team. And so they know that they're contributing. The kids, by helping make Mom's day easier when Dad's not here, that's their contribution. Mm-hmm. Her taking care of all of the kiddos, that's her contribution. My contribution is out here teaching, and then we make our time count. When I'm home, it's high quality time, with an end state of, at some point, Dad's not going to be on the road as much. And so that's how we're balancing things. And that's been working out pretty well for us. It sounds like you have really just not only created a culture in other people's organizations, but you've created something special with your family. And of course, I love that. I say God, family, and then business. So yes. I absolutely love that. And thank you for sharing that. I think that's important for people to hear. And you also shared something really powerful in there. And you said, when I'm home, it's really all about them and it's high quality. And that's so important for people to understand. I told you I just had a grandbaby born, right? And so I literally spun on a dime. We traveled to Texas. It was all about them for 4 and 5 days. Fortunately, I still have a team that was doing work and doing other things in my business, but I basically took those days off. And that was just coming back from a vacation in Hawaii. So it kind of fell really close together, but that's the beauty of having a business, but also having a strong support system. And so thank you for being so open and sharing everything, sharing your journey. Wow, you are building such a legacy with your kids and with your family. It's amazing. I feel really blessed to have interviewed you and had you on the show.
Well, thank you. I feel blessed to have the family that I have. The only people on the planet that showed me unconditional love when I was at my worst were my wife and kids. And I'll never forget how gracious they were, how the kids who might have been fighting with one another when they saw that dad was in physical pain, they said, "We got to stop. Dad can't deal with this." Mm-hmm. My wife did so much epic work when I was completely unfunctional. And I'll never forget that. So I'm so blessed to have them. They're the best team that I've ever been on. And just to have this is almost too much. I'm very, very grateful for it. So yeah, it matters. They matter. It took me a while to recognize that teamwork principles apply at home as well. And as soon as we start,
yes. But they do, right? Oh, so good. So good. All right, Cujo. So we're going to put all of your links and everything in the show notes. How would you like people to get a hold of you, or what's the next step people can take if all of this is resonating and they want to talk to you about your services?
Yeah. On the keynote side, robertteschner.com. That'll get you robertteschner.com. It spells everything out. And I'll tell you that the keynote is a wonderful experience. The feedback that I've gotten in the book signings has moved me to the point where I'm going to do more of this because of the good that it's doing. So that's an easy win. And then for the workshops and for the certifications and all that, VMAX Group, that's our company, VMAX Group, LLC.com is the formal website, easy to find. We're building a new one right now. It'll be launched in the next 6 to 8 weeks or so. And that's also very, very easy. Set up a Calendly appointment. My EA Ava, outstanding teammate, brilliant, epic teammate. And
awesome.
So that I stay on track with everything.
All right. Sounds great. So if you have a need for his services, you want to book him as a keynote speaker, he travels from place to place doing that, definitely reach out to him. And he also is on LinkedIn, and you can reach him there as well. So Cujo, thank you again so much for sharing your story, sharing all of your expertise and your brilliance with my audience. And I know that they are going to get so much out of this. And I just love all the language that you use. Let's debrief. Your call sign, all of those things are just so cool to your brand. So very, very much, so much fun to interview you. So
thanks for doing it, Ann. Thanks for doing what you do. This takes time. This takes effort. You did your homework. You did your research. All of that combines to make something like this worthwhile for your listening audience. So I applaud you for what you're doing. I'm honored by the fact that you would take time to interview me and to get this message out there. And I sincerely appreciate it. I'm blessed to be in your orbit. And I can also say that I knew you.
Well, thank you. The pleasure was all mine. So, all right, everyone. Thank you again for being here for another episode of Expert in You. Make sure that you like the show, share the show, subscribe to the show so that you don't miss one episode. We release a new episode with experts like Cujo every single week and bring you nothing but value. So you all have an amazing day. God bless you. And until next week, bye-bye. If you've enjoyed this episode, I want to invite you to go check out a free training that I have at expertinu.us. It is a training that I have on how you can get ultra premium dream clients, scale your business, get more freedom, and really simplify your business and multiply your money. So go check that out. And again, that is expertinu.us. I want to thank you for being here with me this week. I hope you found massive value. Please always leave a comment, feedback, or a question. We check them all. And I want you to go rock your business and make sure you join us again next week. God bless you. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.